A lot of my students ask, why do I need to learn English? I already go to class, do my homework, and watch videos in English. Isn't that enough? The truth is, reading is one of the best ways to improve your English, and I'll explain why. First, reading is really important. Many years ago, only a few people went to college. Now, more people go to college, and more jobs need people to be good at reading and writing. This is true for almost everyone, whether you work in an office or as a mechanic. Second, reading helps you improve your speaking, writing, vocabulary, and grammar. It's more helpful than most other things. It won't help your listening right away, but it will make your vocabulary stronger. When you know more words, understanding spoken English becomes easier. In school, maybe you had to read boring textbooks or do exercises. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about reading for fun. This means reading something you enjoy because it's fun, not because your teacher told you to. In a study done in the United States, the students were given fun books like detective stories. They were told they could choose what they wanted to read. The students read a lot. Some of them finished a book every 2 days. Later, when they took a test, the students who read the fun books did better at reading and writing. They also liked school more. The students who didn't read the fun books didn't get better. This isn't just for people who speak English as their first language. They did another study in the Caribbean with students learning English. They tried 3 ways of teaching: regular classes, reading silently, and group reading where the teacher reads aloud to the students. After a year, the students who read more did better than those in the regular classes. They did the same study in another country, and the students who read alone did well. They scored better on grammar tests than others who only studied grammar. In regular classes, we usually try to memorize grammar and vocabulary, but when we read, we learn them naturally. Maybe you're thinking, reading in English is hard. I have to look up every word in the dictionary. It's boring. I understand. That's why I wrote this book. I hope it helps you enjoy reading. The stories are simple and fun. The first ones are short and easy, and later they get a little longer and harder. By the time you finish, you'll feel proud of yourself. I also have a podcast called English Listening Practice. Some of the stories in this book were made for that podcast, and I made them better for this book. You can find stories at beginner, pre-intermediate, intermediate, or advanced levels. The stories are fairy tales. Some are famous and others are less well known. Plus one I wrote myself. You might think fairy tales are only for children, and that you want to learn words for business or science. But the words in these stories can be very useful. A researcher named McQuillan discovered that 8% of the words in novels are important academic words. Another study showed that if students read a lot of science fiction, they learn important science words that will help them at university. So yes, fairy tales can help you too. I know it's hard to believe, but when I first learned this, I didn't believe it either. I'm always excited to try new things and learn languages. In 2017, I wanted to learn Spanish, so I set myself a big challenge. I would read 1 million words in Spanish. That's about 40 books, so it was not easy. I started with easy books, then I read translations of stories I already knew, like Harry Potter and The Hunger Games. After that, I read books by new authors from Spanish speaking countries. I loved them. I also listened to podcasts and read their scripts, adding new words to my vocabulary. After reading 1 million words, I could talk to native Spanish speakers and understand almost everything. You might think this sounds hard, or I don't want to read for hours. But here's an important idea: you must read easy and fun books. If a book is too hard or boring, don't waste time with it. Pick something else that's easier or more fun. The expert, Stephen Krashen, says we should only read things that are fun and interesting. Pick books that you wouldn't normally choose in your own language. When you read easy books, you can understand the meaning of new words without needing a dictionary. So, what does easy mean? Studies show that you should understand at least 98% of the words in the text. Let me give you an example. Here's a text where half the words are made up. Kevin jumped out of bed and opened the curtains. He blamed himself as he made breakfast. He made tea and put butter on his pancake. Someone called his phone and he picked it up. He was very surprised by who was calling, so his sandwich fell on the floor. Could you read a whole book like this? Now here's the same idea, but only 2% of the words are made up. Kevin got out of bed and opened the curtains. He sang to himself as he made breakfast. He made tea and put butter on his toast. Someone called his phone, and he picked it up. He was very surprised by who was calling, so his sandwich fell on the floor. This version is much easier to understand, right? It's more fun to read too. That's why reading for fun is so great. You might not know every word, but you can still follow the story. If this book is too hard for you, try something simpler. If it's boring, find something more interesting. Not everyone likes my writing, and that's okay. Find a book you enjoy. When we have fun, we learn more. This book doesn't have exercises because I want you to enjoy reading. I thought about adding exercises, but I believe it's better to just read for fun. If you finish this book, try the next level. Since you already know the stories, it will be easier. I hope you start to love reading. If you want more, listen to my podcast, English Listening Practice. I post a new story every week, and there are over 100 episodes to help you improve. Let's listen to these stories together, and it will help your speaking skills. Do you want to speak English better? Learning English changed my life. I was born in China, so English isn't my first language. Mandarin is. I also speak Cantonese because my family is from Hong Kong. And then I learned English. When I first moved to the United States, I didn't know any English. Many of my viewers watch my videos because they want to speak English better. And I think that's wonderful. Today, I want to share 5 tips to improve your English fluency. 5 things that helped me. Step 1. Don't worry too much. Speak as much as you can. It doesn't matter if you have an accent. I still have an accent, and I speak to millions of people every month. Don't worry about what others think. Just speak. If someone doesn't understand you, say it again. Keep going. Step 2. Immerse yourself in English. When I learned English, I listened to music every day. I sang along and watched movies in English without subtitles. At first, I only understood a little, but after some time, I understood much more. So talk in English, listen to music, and watch movies to learn naturally. Step 3. Make it fun. Don't think of learning English as a boring task. Talk to people, read, listen, and watch in ways that you enjoy. That's the best way to improve. Step 4. Spend time with English speakers. In college, I noticed that many students only spoke with people who spoke their own language. I did the opposite. I made friends with English speakers and talked to them as much as possible. Step 5. Be open to corrections. When someone corrects your English or pronunciation, be thankful. It helps you get better. Here's a bonus tip: overlearn. If you want to improve, push yourself a little more than you think you can handle. You might feel stuck sometimes. This is called the intermediate plateau. Many learners feel this way. You can speak and understand English, but you want to be just as comfortable with English as you are with your own language. I have my own story of learning English. I started when I was 12 with no knowledge of the language. I took classes and studied hard. I read books and practiced alone for 3 years. Then, at 15, I got a job at a cafe. I became the English helper there. Every time a foreign customer came in, they called me over. I talked to them, and they corrected my mistakes. This really helps me speak better. I suggest you keep learning. Find chances to use your English every day, and create your own English environment. Make it a part of your daily routine. Finally, I started teaching English when I was 20. Teaching helped me improve even more because I had to understand the material better to help my students. Learning a language is a long journey, and I hope my story gives you ideas and motivation for your own path.